I was told by one of my mentors, who's a venture capitalist, where to find the answer to who invented the liquidation preference. And his answer, so I got through to this guy who was a VC back in the 70s. And he said, oh, that was invented by, and he named the professor at Harvard, who was basically the first venture capitalist ever. And he said he invented this. And so I got his book. It's sitting on my nightstand. I haven't read it yet. So I will hopefully within the next few months have an answer to where this came from. But basically, this is the idea that the investors are putting money into a company. And so let's just use the simple example. Let's say I put $1 million into a company and they were worth $2 million when I did that. And so now the company's worth $3 million, and I'll explain how that works shortly. But $2 million for company plus a million in cash gives them the $3 million value. And let's just say a month later, they get an offer to sell the company for $3 million. Well, I gave them $1 million and they sold the company for $3 million. And so I own a third of the company and I get my $1 million back and they get $2 million of the deal. That seems okay. That seems reasonable. But what happens if I put $1 million in the company, they say they're valued at $2 million, and they accept an offer to be sold next week of $2 million? All of a sudden, I've lost money, right? So I'm going to get 1/3 of $2 million, right? So $667,000. They're going to go home with $1.3 million. And where did that other missing value go, right? So it may be to the founder's benefit to sell quickly and sell cheaply, but it's certainly not to my benefit. I need them to grow the value of their company in order to make a profit. And I need them to grow a lot in order to make a decent profit. So this liquidation preference is there to protect against this one case. And the way it's written is to say that if there's a change of control, and that's the legal term for an acquisition or a merger or anything where someone else is taking control of this company. So in a change of control, the investors get back their money before any money goes to the shareholders. So they come first. So if I do the $1 million investment and the company's worth $2 million again, and so it's $3 million after the investment, and they sell for $4 million, I get my $1 million back. So now there's $3 million left, and now we split what's left. That would be participating liquidation preference. And so that's not fair either, right? So I got my $1 million back, and then we're splitting $3 million. So I got $2 million out of the $4 million. I got half the money back from this investment, or half the money from this acquisition, and the founders only got half, even though I only owned a third. So then there's a creation here called non-participating, which is that I get my money back first, and then we split it, or I get back whatever percentage I own, whichever's higher. And so that would be non-participating liquidation preference. So again, in this case of we sell for $4 million, I can either have my $1 million and the other $3 million go to the founders, right, the other shareholders, or I can have 1/3 of the $4 million, whichever's higher. And so in that case, the way to think about that is that the preferred shares are either worth the liquidation preference, or they're converted to common shares and the common shareholders split the proceeds. And the other reason why I'm trying to explain this in multiple steps here is because when the economy's bad, after the dot-com crash, and I'm sure this is going to happen in the next 2 years here, the liquidation preference isn't just getting their capital back. That would be a 1x liquidation preference. After the dot-com bubble, we saw as high as 3x liquidation preferences, which means I get 3 times my money back before we share anything or before we decide whether we share anything. So again, going back to that deal, if I had a 3x liquidation preference on a $1 million deal, then they sell for $4 million, I get the first 3, and then the founders get the last 1. That would make it so the founders wouldn't want to do a deal at 4. They would want to wait until we got to 5 or 6 or 7 until they would want to even try and sell the company. So liquidation preferences can mess up. They can really change what percentage ownership means and change the incentives around that board meeting table about whether or not an acquisition even makes sense, right? Because it's usually true these days that each investor has the same size liquidation preference, but it's not always true. It could be, if the economy crashes, as it just did, it could be that the last 2 rounds of investors had 1x preferences, and the next investor that comes along in a time when no one's investing could say, well, I'll take a 2x preference. And that then changes all the math of an acquisition. And so I showed you this a few times. This is what a successful VC or angel investment portfolio looks like. And I always say, you know, there's a reason why I highlighted the 3 line here. 3 out of 10 times they get their money back. And I always say, well, there's a reason why they get their money back, exactly their money back. This is the reason, because usually deals have a 1x liquidation preference on them. So if the company's not doing well and it does a little acqui-hire, right? It does a little fire sale of its company. Usually the investors will not do that until the value that's being purchased, the acquisition price, is at least as much as they put in capital, and then they take it all. And then the founders who are still around, they don't get any of the acquisition price. They get a good salary, or they get a signing bonus, you know, for doing the deal that's outside the acquisition price. So this is why that line shows up as exactly 1x, and when you look at the data, is almost always 1x.
Hey, Looney, just a quick one on the last chart there. Is that a pretty? I've seen this mix in different ways. Is that pretty much that mix there considered success?
Anything between 2 and 3 is success. Right?
Okay.
2.6 is the data set for angels, proving that angels can make money. If you had invested in all 6,000 deals in that data set, you would have gotten 2.6.
2.6 in how long? I mean, there must be some time, over 10 years.
This is a 10-year. Okay, that's okay. This is a 10-year time horizon. Okay, got it. Yep.
Yeah.